Hi, this is Dr. Geneva. Today on Ignite to Impact, we hear from Keisha Taylor, who helps us learn that moving up that corporate or career ladder is more like rock climbing as we learn how to navigate our career moves.
Welcome to Ignite to Impact, a weekly podcast about next generation leadership and what it takes to make a difference at work, with family, and in your community. Get ready to be inspired as we pull back the curtain and dive into intimate and energetic conversations with achievers and doers who are in the trenches navigating workplace politics and influencing change. Get ready to hear how leaders fail and get back up, learning how to keep it together while traveling in their leadership journey. Our mission: to help you with leadership tips and strategies that you can use to get fast results and help make your business, community, and world a better place. Now, here's your host, Master Leadership Strategist, Dr. Geneva Williams. So, let's ignite to impact.
Welcome to Ignite to Impact. This is Dr. Geneva, and our conversation is brought to you by Dr. Geneva Speaks. Well, in case you may have thought that making career moves is a very orderly, logical process that really you can figure it all out with one fell swoop, we want to let you know that we have someone with us who can perhaps shed some light on how to navigate career moves, how to leverage relationships, and how to perhaps be more decisive about your next steps. Welcome to our conversation, Keisha Taylor, who's the newly appointed Senior Vice President, Integrated Marketing at Learfield. And we're going to hear all about Learfield and what they do. And she joined Learfield in 2015 to spearhead a newly created position and leads the company's marketing, graphics, research, client insights, events, and training. She's also a very integral member of an internal team launching the Wow Factor. And this is for Learfield women and also includes some additional female-focused initiatives. So she's assisting Learfield in developing new social and mobile concept from partners. Now, Keisha's prior experience has been with Turner Broadcasting as Senior Director of Entertainment Marketing for TNT and TBS. And then before that, she was Director of Strategic Marketing at CNN. So my guest has some really very impressive experience, and I know we're going to learn a lot from her. So welcome, Keisha Taylor.
Thank you so much, Dr. Geneva, for that very warm welcome. Happy to be here.
Well, great. We're delighted. So I know I gave our listeners a kind of quick scan into your background, but I'd like you to talk a little bit more about how you made the transition into where you are now at Learfield, which I understand you said when asked about your new position, quote, "I thought my sports were over after my last high school soccer match," end quote. So, you got to tell us all about that.
That is absolutely correct. I thought the end of my sports career would be after I played my last high school soccer match. I never aspired to be in the sports industry, but my life and career decisions have led me there. And I think it started early on with the philosophy that I heard when I was really young in my career, that success is not necessarily about climbing the corporate ladder. We always hear that, Dr. Smith, you've got to climb the corporate ladder. Instead, the woman who shared her advice and experience shared with us that success is really more akin to rock climbing, that sometimes you will take a move to the left or to the right, which means that those could be lateral moves. Sometimes, if you've ever been rock climbing, you'll notice that you have to take a step down before you can reach back up again. And so I took that to heart when I heard it, but I never really knew just how much that would play out in my career. And so my career, I think, really is one that can be attributed to rock climbing more than ladder climbing. And that's just the case when I made the shift to sports at Learfield. After having a career that was really rooted in television for 10 years at Turner Broadcasting, an executive recruiter reached out to me for an opportunity, and he said, it's a sports job. And I said, oh, you must have the wrong person. I work at Turner, but not Turner Sports. Are you sure it's me that you're looking for? And he said, yes, actually it is. We are looking for someone who has a very different background than the traditional sports marketer, someone who's a little more rooted in entertainment. And he said, we think you might be a good fit. And Dr. Geneva, foolishly at first, I didn't really jump at the opportunity. But this is the beauty of having mentors. My mentor told me, always have the conversation. And then as I did have the conversation, I realized that this could be a tremendous growth opportunity for me. And I was fortunate enough to receive the job offer. So that being willing to take a risk is really what led me to this opportunity.
Yes. And so take us, so how were you feeling? Were you, like, hey, I can do this, super confident, I know you took a risk. So, how were you feeling as
Quite
you were
the
taking?
opposite.
Huh? What?
Quite the opposite,
Okay.
Dr. Geneva. Not super confident at all.
Okay.
I was confident in my ability as a marketer, but I was very nervous about moving into a new industry that was foreign to me, quite honestly. And, I think it's one of the things that I now share most with people is that if there is an opportunity in front of you and it doesn't scare you or make you nervous on some level, then you probably shouldn't take it because it's not going to grow you. You won't stretch. And you need to be taken out of your comfort zone sometimes in order to truly grow. So while I was absolutely confident in my ability as a marketer, I was very nervous to move into a new industry at that point in my career.
So what did you do to shake off them nerves? I mean, to get yourself to a point where you were, the nerves didn't, that fear. Because I know you say nervous, maybe it's a little fear, but that fear didn't block you. What'd you do?
Prayer. I think prayer for me was absolutely critical. I want to be prayerful and thoughtful about the things that I do because the nerves don't go away. After time they do, but initially they were still there, but I knew, to your point, that I had to get past that. And so I was very prayerful in the transition, but also I became a student of the industry. I think the one thing that you need to do when you make a shift into an area that's new to you is to become a student of the business. And I started to reach out to people who I knew were in sports. I, asked them to make connections for me on my behalf so that I could start to build a network in this new area. I made sure that I spoke with as many people at the company when I started my job so that I could understand exactly how the organization worked, what made it tick, understanding the areas that were going to be a little more difficult to navigate than others. I just really wanted to have a good lay of the land. And then I really relied on friends and family because no one can bolster you the way that friends and family can. And they'll always support you and lift you up, particularly when you don't think maybe you are up for the challenge. And so because of those things, I was able to mitigate the nerves to some degree. And then after time, I became much more comfortable and confident. But that was my strategy.
Oh, okay. I love that. I'm so appreciative that you shared that. It reminds me of also when, I really love the whole kind of step back but learn as much as you can about the new space you're stepping into. I recall when I was, I was just appointed as the head of United Way, and I had been in the organization for umpteen years and had, been in every position there could be, et cetera. So you'd think stepping into the top leader role, hey, piece of cake. But it wasn't, because even though it was the same organization, I was stepping into a new role. And that role required that I really had to stop and recalculate, relearn. And it's like what you're saying. And the main thing I did was study and ask people what they thought I should do, what kinds of culture would they like to see in the organization, what kinds of changes. And I think as you've reminded me of how important it is to always be a learner and think about what it is that you're getting ready to get into.
Yes. I'm the daughter of two retired educators, and so education has always been a focus. And when you grow up with it, and my parents, although they're retired, they're still learning and interested in taking classes and going to new places. And I think that rubbed off on me and on my brother, and we've always been interested in learning. And you're right, Dr. Geneva, if you don't have a genuine interest in learning the space around you, you're not necessarily setting yourself up for success.
Yes. So you did all the, you dealt with the nervousness, you stepped out there, you learned about the industry, it helped you with your comfort level, your confidence. So tell us what happened in your first 30 days, and what did you do?
The first 30 days, really, the first 30 days of being there, I was very fortunate in that my manager, who's the chief revenue officer, already had a list of the things that he wanted me to do in the first 7 days and then in the first 30 days. So I had a bit of a ramp-up plan. I'd never had that before, and I strongly recommend that if you're new to an organization, that you ask your immediate manager if there is a ramp-up plan, because that gave me some guidance in the first 30 days. And so really, more than anything else, I conducted what I called a listening tour, much to what you were saying, Dr. Geneva. I met with obviously all of the members of my team. I then met with other members of the leadership team. I started traveling to our offices across the country so that I could have a better understanding of the people that I would be working with, but also of the business. And so really the listening tour happened for, quite honestly, the first 3 months of my tenure at the organization, because you really have I think you have to give yourself at least that much time to get up to speed, not just to learn where the conference rooms are, and how to find your desk, but really to learn the personalities of the people that you're working with, what the triggers are for them, what's important, what are some of the challenges, and then after listening, you can start to have an impact and make decisions, but the decisions that you make will be informed decisions because you've had the opportunity to listen.
So you're also kind of putting that, it's real good advice in terms of you don't have to jump in and do. I think I'm hearing you suggest that at least what worked for you was a very initial early on step was to jump in and listen.
Yes. Not jump in and do. That is absolutely correct. I recognized that if I wanted to be impactful in the organization, I needed to listen first. I did not want to jump in and do because I didn't know enough to jump in and do. And I'm a big believer in informed decision making. To the best of your ability, if you can be informed about the challenges around you and the situations that you need to develop solutions for, that's what you should do. Be informed and be an informed leader. Now, sometimes you have to use your gut, and I think that's important. And you have to realize when those times are, because data sometimes, while it's wonderful, you sometimes need to be able to go ahead and make a decision based on data and your gut. And so I did not want to jump in and make decisions because I knew that I wasn't quite ready to make those decisions. And when I did make decisions, I wanted them to be impactful. There's nothing wrong with waiting. Sometimes it's best to wait and to assess before moving forward.
Yeah, I like that. I call that what I call is the deep breath management technique. That you can pause, you can take a deep breath. You can pause. Just like, the advice is given when you're in a heated conversation, you can pause and take a deep breath and try to de-escalate the situation. You can also do that, I believe, with, career moves and how you deal with things on the workplace. And so you took a deep breath, a pause, and you were able to open your ears and listen and hear from other people. Now, I would think that also would help you in establishing and maintaining some meaningful, good relationships.
Yes, absolutely. I think the people in my organization were really appreciative of the fact that I didn't come in thinking that I knew all the answers and that I didn't just immediately start making change. They really appreciated the fact that I took the time to meet with them, to hear them, and that I waited. I didn't just come in and make rash decisions. And so that won a lot of goodwill for me. And I'm a big believer in having a reservoir of goodwill, because there are going to be some days you will need to draw from that well, because we will all make mistakes. We will all need help. We will all be in situations where we really need a partner to help us navigate. And so to the degree that you can build that reservoir of goodwill early on, that's always a great thing. But I also think it sets a precedent for how people watch you, how people understand your leadership. And I think my team knows and my colleagues know that any decisions that I make will be thoughtful decisions. They know that they won't be rushed. And that I will have really tried my best to understand every angle of a challenge in order to best find a solution. And that has won me a lot of respect and favor within the organization, and I'm very thankful for that. And thankful that people gave me the time to listen as opposed to having to act right away. Because there are situations where you have to make some decisions pretty quickly. That's business. And when those things come up, you have to do it. But again, if you can pause, as you say, and take a breath, those are always, I think, opportunities that you should take.
And then sometimes you can, do the pause, take the breath, and maybe maybe you won't have the luxury or the ability for 3 months, or maybe you only have a few weeks, or you might even have a few days. But you can probably find the time to do that. And you know what else, Keisha? It would seem to me that it could become part of your negotiating conversation as you're accepting an offer. I mean, you could, as part of the negotiations, just say, I want to take a couple of weeks or whatever period of time, makes sense, to really get to know the culture and come. And you could, have that kind of conversation up. You can kind of have that conversation up front. And so, well, first of all, let me just tell our listeners who may have just joined us that I'm having a very informative conversation with Keisha Taylor, who's the relatively new Senior Vice President, Integrated Marketing of Learfield. And she also has a really great background in marketing from CNN, where she was Director of Strategic Marketing, and also with Turner Broadcasting. But this position with Learfield took her into a new space, into a new area. So we're kind of talking about that in terms of career moves and what to do and lessons she's learned. Keisha, I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned, you used a word, you said navigate, and we were talking about setting up, meaningful relationships and, so often I hear from particularly women about, how do you navigate the dynamics, political, social dynamics in the workplace. And, women will say to me, well, I do everything right. I dot my I's, I cross my T's, I'm prepared, I'm educated, I've had lots and lots of experience. But it's really tough, getting and dealing with all the politics. And lots of times, they'll leave or get frustrated or, real dissatisfied with where they are because of the political dynamics or the social dynamics at the workplace. What tips do you have? What's been your experience in terms of navigating at the workplace?
Well, Dr. Geneva, you're right. I think many of us have been that woman or that person at some point in time. I used to think when I started out in my career that if I just worked hard and did the very best that I could, that I would be recognized for my work and someone would see it and promote me. Mm-hmm. And then I learned very quickly, yes, you absolutely need to do those things. You need to have a very strong work ethic. Your end product needs to be solid. You need to work well with your coworkers, be the person that someone wants on their team. But what I also realized very quickly is that you need a mentor, but almost equally, if not perhaps more importantly, you need an advocate. And hard work and dedication will help you to find a mentor, but you need an advocate. Mentors are amazing, and I have had several and have several that have influenced my career. And they've influenced my career because they've helped to nurture me as a business professional. They've given me coaching. And all of those things have been really great in terms of building my career. What has really propelled my career, however, have been advocates. Advocates are the people who, and they're very different from mentors, those are the people who will sit in rooms or at tables where you are not present and you are not privy to the conversations. And these are the people who will speak up for you. They will publicly recognize you and your work. They will shape your perception among the leadership team, and they will validate you in a way that a mentor potentially cannot. And so I have been very fortunate to have advocates for me, and that's really what's propelled me to the next level. Mentors are great, and I strongly recommend that you seek mentors. And when you're seeking mentors, seek people that look like you and people that don't. I have a deep bench of mentors. There are black women. There are white men. You need to have a good mix because at the end of the day, you need a set of mentors that represents the workplace. So, because there are perspectives that white men will give you that black women will not.
Absolutely. So how do you get an advocate?
I don't know that you can necessarily ask for an advocate. I think it's part of being strategic. As much as you can be a part of meetings where there are members of the senior leadership team involved, I think it's important to ask for jobs and projects that no one else wants, or be willing to take those things on, because oftentimes when you do that, you're exposed to levels of leadership that others are not, because they didn't want to take on the tough project. They didn't want to do something that was outside of the scope of their job. But often doing those things give you audience to people who are in leadership positions. And even if they're not your mentors, they can then become your advocates. And oftentimes mentors can also become your advocates, but more often than not, I think it's just making sure that you're strategically going after opportunities that will give you visibility among leadership, and then doing a good job, more importantly, when you have those opportunities, and they allow you to have conversations. And I think those conversations sometimes bleed over into boardrooms and conference rooms where your name will now be in the mix when it potentially wasn't before.
Absolutely. And so one of the distinctions I think I'm hearing also, and I love, the strategy that you've shared with us, is that, mentor, you probably ask, you have that kind of conversation, and the mentor could really be someone who knows your industry or doesn't. I mean, really might not even have a clue about what it is you do on a day-to-day basis. But the advocate is someone who observes you, who sees you perform, and you might not even know that they're advocating you when the doors are closed.
Absolutely. I've been in situations where I've reported into people not realizing that they were my advocate. They may have been my direct manager. And typically after the fact, you'll find out who your advocates are. I remember working on a cross-functional team once, and a member from the leadership team was often sitting in on the meetings, and I was running them. And what I didn't realize, and he was in another department, what I didn't realize is that he recommended me for another job opportunity that I eventually got. He was an advocate, and I didn't even know it. But because I had a strong work ethic, I enjoyed working with other people, and they enjoyed working with me. He saw those things, and he saw the product of my work and recommended me for another opportunity. And so sometimes you never know who's watching.
Yes.
And you should always operate in excellence. That is my mantra. Operate in excellence. You never know who's watching.
Yes. So, I'm just loving your insight. So, as we're winding down in terms of our time and our conversation, and I want to have you back because I think, you've shared some really good tips and lessons about making career changes and how to leverage relationships. What I'd like to ask you as we close is, so what's next? What's next for you?
Dr. Geneva, I wish I could tell you. I don't know what's next for me. Whatever's next, we'll have to see. But I know, I'm always interested in learning new things. I'm down the road, and I don't know if this will be in 10 years or 15 years. I'm interested in really finding opportunities to uplift women and people of color. And, my brother and I have been bouncing around the idea of having an urban farming, entrepreneurial venture, because I'm a country girl, and, I grew up with grandfathers who are farmers. But I just want to make sure that whatever's next, it allows me to really serve women and people of color and uplift those communities that I'm a part of. And I think if I can do that, that will be meaningful work.
Searching for that meaning, that's always so important. Yes. Well, I am absolutely convinced you'll be as thoughtful, strategic, successful, and always learning about whatever new ventures you take on as you are in your current position. And I very much encourage you to do that, to really think about it, because 10 years will come and go in a heartbeat.
They will.
It really will be, and I always tell people it's that dash that matters. We all are born and we all leave this earth, and there's the dash in the middle. What happens in the middle? And that's our life, and that's the meaning, and what makes life meaningful, what makes it vibrant. And I always encourage people, to think about it. How can you bring meaning and share your gifts, because you have a ton of them. So we want you to do that. Keisha Taylor, thank you. Senior Vice President, Integrated Marketing. And we didn't specifically say what Learfield does, but it is a collegiate sports marketing company. So tell me, give me the 1 second spiel.
We connect sports fans, college sports fans with brands. That's what we do.
Yes.
That's my one-liner.
Yes, there you go. See, I asked you for one-liner. You got it down pat, girl. I love it. See, And I'm just delighted to have you here. You know, we're just so impressed by your career. Wish you the absolute best in everything and all that you do as you're blazing trails, and hope that you'll think about coming back and chatting with us again.
I would love to. Dr. Geneva, it's been a real honor and a privilege to join you on the show. Thank you so much for having me, and I will absolutely come back.
Okay, great. Thank you, Keisha Taylor. And although she thought sports were over for her, she was able to make some terrific new career moves, and it's just really great to learn and listen to how you did that. So thank you, Keisha Taylor. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Ignite to Impact with your host, Dr. Geneva Williams, an award-winning executive, facilitator, and master leadership strategist. Dr. Geneva is passionate about inspiring others to get their own leadership on and empowering the next generation with leadership tools and tips to help make the world a better place. Sign up to download Dr. Geneva's audiobook on leadership. Get the show notes, links, and other resources at drgenevaspeaks.com. That's drgenevaspeaks.com. Thanks for listening. Please share this podcast to those in your community via Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or Google+, and leave us a 5-star review in iTunes. When you do that, it helps others find the show better. Send your questions or comments to info@drgenevaspeaks.com and use the hashtag Ignite2Impact.